no idea what I wanted to do yet. Was in marketing and management in business school. Knew I loved sports, knew I was intrigued by facilities, and got randomly put on a marketing research project to do surveys at the monster truck show at the arena. And so that was my kind of aha moment. I went in there, we did surveys with my team, and I'm like, holy crap, there's a whole industry of people that run these awesome facilities, right? I grew up playing sports like most of you, and so we need good people on that side so you can do what you need to do on yours, right? And so if you're gonna perform at a high level, you need expectations from the facility management side to make sure the field, the court, the lights, the guest experience, all those things happen. And so it was a great moment for me to understand that there was a whole industry of folks, and literally since that summer where I ended up interning at the arena in South Carolina, I've been super focused on facility management. So after graduating in 2006, I worked a full year in the athletic department, like full-time internship, completely unpaid, and then decided I wanted to go ahead and go to grad school. And so I went to Ohio University. They have a dual degree program there that you do your MBA in the first 15 months, and then you do a master's in sports administration and facility management for another 12. And so in between there, you get an internship under your belt, but really good immersive experience. 20 kids get in a year. It's the oldest sports management graduate program in the country. It started in the 60s, was founded by the Dodgers owner at the time, O'Malley. But anyway, so good program. From there, I finished and moved on to Austin, Texas, was my first kind of professional stop. So in 2009, I was part of a team at an AHL hockey facility just outside of Austin, Texas. We opened a building. It was called Cedar Park Center then. It's HEB Center now. Not with my organization. That venue was actually run by the hockey team at that point. So it was kind of one group, the hockey team operations side as well as the venue management team. I was there for a few years. I started it on the event services side of the industry. So I came in as event services manager and basically planned the events, oversaw the front of house staff, dealt with public safety, and was the main liaison with the shows. I'll tell you, even in my role today, that hasn't changed much. I'm there event nights, I'm interacting with our team, I'm supporting them to make sure we provide a high level of guest experience, and we take care of the promoters at the end of the day. So I was there a few years, and in 2012 I moved on to my organization. So I've been with Oakview Group and a predecessor company by another name for about 14 years now. I actually moved here to Oklahoma, to Enid, small town, northwest Oklahoma, if you're not familiar with it, but fantastic opportunity for me to be the GM of the properties there. There's a renovation and new construction project of a 3,800 seat arena. So I was there for about 4 years, oversaw the construction, started things up, and then got things going. From there, I moved to Colorado and was there for 8.5 years. I not only ran a venue that was called the Budweiser Event Center when Eric was there, but it's now called Blue Arena, but AHL hockey facility. But then I was a regional vice president with Oakview Group. So I oversaw multiple venues kind of up and down the central part of the company, from Corpus Christi to Omaha to some in New Mexico. And so those GMs reported up to me kind of from a corporate private management perspective. So about 2 years ago, I had the opportunity to come here to Tulsa to lead the team downtown at the BOK Center and Arvest Convention Center. Hopefully, if you've not been down to BOK Center yet, hopefully you'll have that opportunity. We do have the ECHL hockey team, the Tulsa Oilers, in there. We also have an IFL team, also named the Tulsa Oilers, that play in the venue. Same ownership group, same name. But really, where we make most of our money, quite frankly, is on concerts. And so we do 40 to 50 concerts a year. We do some other family shows and sporting events, but it's been a good, quick 2 years. And I'll talk a little bit more about our staff in a little bit, but that's kind of my career progression. What I would say is, I did 3 internships during my undergrad and grad. We have internship programs here in Tulsa at BOK Center. They are not department specific. We do 2 interns in the fall, 2 in the spring, and probably 2 in the summer. What we do is we put you with a department for a week, and then we switch you up. So you get a very well-rounded view of events, finance, marketing, security. And so you learn kind of the whole side of the business, where even if you're interested in marketing, to me, you've got the opportunity to learn a little bit of everything, and that'll make you more marketable long-term. They are paid internships, so just throwing that out there. And I'll make sure you guys get my contact information, and we can stay connected if that is a fit for someone.
I'm glad you're mentioning it. It'll be a big point of emphasis for us. Come on in, AJ. Come on, guys. 10 minutes.
I had text you.
All right. It'll be a big point of emphasis as we get to talk about the career opportunities later in the semester. I will hammer on the opportunities for internships, no matter your career path, but specifically in the sports career path, because that's where I got my start. That's where he got his start. So we'll talk about that later, but I'm glad you're bringing it up now. So we'll remind you about it when we get to that part of the semester.
Yeah, but internships are key. Just to echo what he said, I mean, take every opportunity you can. Say yes is my approach. So any experience is good experience. So today, here in Tulsa, I lead a team of 120 full-time staff. We have about 500 part-time employees that staff our venues on an event-by-event basis. We have one team that oversees both of the venues. So you may be more familiar with the BOK Center because we do the bigger, more public events there. The convention center has actually got more events, and a lot of people go through that building as well. So between our two venues, you're looking at about 400 events a year. About 1 million people come through those venues. All of Tulsa, from like a tourism standpoint, tourism is worth about $300 million in economic impact to this community. Our venues create about 160 of that. So if you think about everything else in town, these two buildings are really the heartbeat right in downtown Tulsa. So let's talk about private management just for a second. When you think about these venues, could be stadiums, could be arenas, could be convention centers, theaters. A lot of them are owned by public entities, right? Cities, counties, authorities, some conglomerate of those. Some of them choose to do it themselves, and there's some really good examples of venues that are run by public entities. Probably the one that pops into my head the most is the city of Orlando. They do a great job with the Magic's Arena, Camping World Stadium. There's a couple of other smaller venues, but the city entity, the city themselves, run those venues. There's also a fair amount, probably in the neighborhood of 700 to 800 venues across North America that outsource that management to either us or that other company, ASM, that I mentioned earlier. OVG, how we work is basically we have a contract with the city of Tulsa to manage their assets. So we manage their dollars, so they're public dollars, even though we're stewards of them. So we have to think about that with procurement and other things that we do. But the important part is some cities don't feel like they have the expertise to do it themselves, and so they bring in one of the two companies. Usually that happens through a competitive RFP process, so that means they send out the requirements. We both provide proposals on why we're the best to be here in Tulsa, for example. And then for us, we compete for the business. And then it's our job every day to fulfill our promises that, for example, for me, that we've made to the city of Tulsa. So it's an important term to know for sure. RFP, you'll run across that a lot. So on the private-public side, there's lots of good folks on both sides of those industries. What I would say is there is a lot of value from the private side because we can work together. What that means for Tulsa, regionally here, OVG, we run a venue in Austin, Texas. We run several venues in South Texas. We run a venue in Kansas City. We run a venue in Des Moines. We run a venue in North Dakota. And that's just kind of like up this corridor. Why that's important is because we can work together to route shows and make it really easy for people to book a whole weekend versus just a single date, right? So if you've got power numbers, and so we can flex that every day for a lot of our partners. So our primary responsibility as the private manager is to drive content, right? We need busy buildings. and then we need to execute the events, and then along the way, we've got to make sure they're financially sustainable, right? So booking and sales, so sales in the convention center and booking in the arena are the lifeblood of what we do. And I'll talk about premium seating and advertising, because that's really the other revenue bucket that's almost equally as important as events. But booking, I could take a whole hour on booking on the arena side. But what I would tell you is, has anybody heard of Live Nation? Yeah, Live Nation. So Live Nation, if you look at the BOK Center's calendar, probably 80 to 90% of the events on the calendar, Live Nation is the promoter. So if you think of the artist, so somebody throw out an artist, any band, anybody.
Billie Eilish.
Billie Eilish, coming up in November.
He brought us free tickets to the show today. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, if you answer my question, maybe. Okay, so if you think about Billie Eilish, so we have her coming November 10th and 11th. It was a huge get for us, but between Billie Eilish and the venue, you've got a lot of layers, right? So you've got Billie Eilish, you've got her manager, who until 2 months ago was actually her mom still, which is kind of cool. Her mom comes to every show day and walks the venue.
Because her brother's her creative partner.
Yeah.
It's a family business, right?
Yeah, it's cool. She's got a real manager now.
Yeah.
Though, so, but you got Billie Eilish, you had her mom. That's the manager. Then you got the agent. So that's the person that's out there on behalf of Billie Eilish, kind of representing her on what they do. Then there's the promoter. And for us, that's Live Nation. And then there's the venue. So you've got kind of 5 layers to this equation, and everybody, A, has to make money, but B, has different motives, right? And so the artist may want one thing, the manager may think something else, the agent wants to book as many shows as they can because that's what they get paid on. The promoter is primarily interested in making money, and then the venues like shows, right? And so I say that to say every show we book has a different strategy on how we're going to land it for Tulsa. You know, this we're over 1 million people in Tulsa. We compete with Oklahoma City every single day for shows. Oklahoma City has a pro sports team. They like to tout that. They have 1.5 million people. They like to tout that. The good news for us is we sell more tickets and we have higher gross ticket sales, and that's documented proof that, to me, we're a better music market. But the problem is we're not just competing with Oklahoma City, we're competing with the Kansas Cities and the fact that artists only want to play so many dates, and so they may skip the state completely. So we've got a lot of acts that come from Texas, either Austin, up to the Dallas area, and then they'll go straight to Kansas City, or they'll go over to Phoenix, or they'll skip both of us and go straight to Denver.
Sorry to interrupt, because routing-wise, geographically speaking, you're trying to do something that's most efficient in terms of your tour route.
Yeah, and that's a good point. So a magic number in the touring world is 500 miles, because that's what they can drive overnight, and drivers don't go into extra time and need more rest and that type thing. So if you're within 500 miles, you got a shot, is kind of what we say in our industry. So we're really looking, you can get from Austin to here overnight. You can get from Dallas to here overnight. Obviously Kansas City, we see people from Omaha coming, Omaha, Lincoln coming down here. You can't get to Denver without it being an extra pain in the butt. So for us, we really have to route with one of those two. And even though we've got more stuff east that could come to us, everything east of us, think Little Rock and Memphis and Nashville and all that, those all get slotted in kind of different legs. Promoters are very habitual, and so they're like, okay, well, Oklahoma, it's either before or after Texas, and maybe it's before Denver, maybe it's before Phoenix. Billie Eilish was interesting because that show was literally down to us in Houston. So they're going from New Orleans to us to Austin. So that one was a big get for us, because New Orleans to Houston to Austin is a lot easier. You guys know the geography.
So she's skipping Houston altogether. This leg,
Houston
at least.
all together on this leg. So yeah, it's interesting. But But again, booking is what we work on every day. I have a booking team that this is what they think about every moment of every day they're in the office. So it's really important. And then on the convention center side, we have a sales team that works on lots of different types of events, sporting events, conventions, banquets, trade shows. So we have 4 sales managers on that side. Everybody's kind of got their lane of what they work on. So it's a very concentrated effort, and that's a huge part of our revenue. The other part of our revenue is advertising, premium seating. So think about naming rights deals, right? So BOK, Bank of Oklahoma, is the naming rights partner on the arena, and then Arvest Bank is newly the partner on the convention center. We just made that transition earlier this year. So naming rights are a huge part of our revenue stream. Additionally, premium seating, so suites, club seats, all that premium seating assets in the BOK Center. We sell those. We have a team of 5 that sell all of these assets. And then advertising throughout the venue. Think about digital screens, think about concourse signs, think about event sponsorships. We sell all of that. So that's about $11 million a year for BOK Center. And then we make a little more than that on all of our events on an annual basis. But our expenses are a lot too, right? I mentioned all that staff, and so overhead's a lot. Utilities alone. Anybody have a guess on what the utilities, think electric, gas, water for BOK Center is for a year? Any guess?
5 million.
How much?
5 million.
A little high.
I have no idea.
It's just under $2 million.
Oh, wow.
So, maintaining the ice is a big part of that, right? The refrigeration skid that we have to, so we're putting in the ice right, actually literally right now. But it keeps a lot, it takes a lot to maintain the ice system. But then we have 500,000 square feet. They're designed to look nice, not really be efficiently from a heating and cooling perspective sometimes. So if you come into BOK Center, we've got a lot of high ceilings. It takes a lot to heat and cool that. We have a lot of natural light, which is great, but that means a lot of exterior glass that let in heat, and that we have to clean as well. So we have to clean the exterior of the BOK Center every year. The stainless steel panels, if you guys have driven by the building, kind of looks like a spaceship, right? And so there's 33,000 of those stainless steel panels, and we have to clean them every year to make sure they keep looking nice. And we have about 2,000 sheets of pretty large sections of glass on the exterior of the BOK Center. So it's a big endeavor every year for us to get that stuff cleaned. So I talked about events a little bit. I think digging down a little on the kind of the org chart, and I can share that, and we can share it out later. But like I said, 120 staff. That includes food and beverage that has about 20 on the team. The food and beverage team is everything from culinary staff, so chefs, right, for both venues. We've got our front of house catering team for the convention center. We have a concessions team for both buildings, and then we even have a warehouse and purchasing team because we do so much volume there. We do about $17 million a year in gross food and beverage sales between the 2 venues. Pretty busy for our world. How we measure specifically on the convention or on the arena side, we measure performance based on something we call a per cap. And so every person in the building, attendance-wise, we call part of our drop count. So for a hockey game, if we have 5,000 people physically in the building, we call that the drop count. So how many people are in the building? It's an important term because sometimes teams have distributed tickets. Mm-hmm. You know, if a event's sold out and you're in there and you're like, man, there's a ton of empty seats, and they just announced the sellout, right? And so those tickets may be distributed, but the drop is much less. And so the drop count is what's in the building, and then we measure performance based on a per cap. So per person spending is what we look at. And so concessions is a per cap driven business for us. On a good concert night, we're doing $30 per person. That's
Really?
on
Wow.
average, what we're getting. Hockey games are closer to 20, but our per caps are pretty good here.
That's real good.
Yeah. Merch per caps are huge for concerts. We actually had a record per cap last year for Travis Scott. A good concert per cap is like $30. Travis Scott did 75.
Wow.
So I don't know if anybody came to that show, but it was really good. But he was selling hoodies for $150, so that adds up quick.
I'm interrupting here because
Yep.
how much of that percentage goes to the artist and you? I thought most of that was artist, like it's negotiated in the
Yeah.
deal.
Yeah.
But give us an idea of, you're doing $30 per cap on average for merch. How much is that coming to you guys?
Yeah, so the typical merch deal, merch means a lot to the artist, right? Because if you think of how the artist makes their money, it's on tickets, what's left, right? But there's lots of people taking slivers along the way. So if they sell $1 million, well, they got to pay for the venue. The promoter's going to take some, the agent's going to take some, the manager's going to take some, and then they get what's left, right? And so that's not a ton. And then, well, it's still a lot, but comparatively to the starting point, it's a lot less. Merch means a lot to them because they get a higher percentage of those dollars. Typically, what we get is 15%. So it's typically an 85-15 split. Sometimes, like a Billie Eilish or another big show like Travis Scott, when we know the per cap's going to be really high, sometimes we'll agree to a 90-10. So 90% to them, 10% to us. Now, that seems good, but then we have to sell it. We have to check it in, we have to sell it, we have to check it out. It's a very labor-intensive process.
Because they don't provide their own staff to do so.
They don't provide the staff. They're just like, they have a merch person, they show up with their truckload of stuff, and they're like, here you go, you get to sell it, we want 85% or 90%. And that's just the deal, right? So for us, say we're getting 15%. Well, we outsource to a merch company to manage all those services for us, and they take 7%. So that 15 almost gets cut in half, and so the venue itself, we're getting 7.5%, 8%, 9%, depending on the deal. So that's not as important.
And that flows your bottom line, you're saying? That's a percentage of, yeah.
Yep. So that's revenue for us. On the concession side, our OVG Hospitality, it's a completely separate entity that runs food and beverage and venues. They give us basically a flat percentage. So most food and beverage deals, like Sodexo here at the arena and the football stadium, they provide a percentage of sales to the university for their services. So that can be a wide range. Universities especially are unique deals because, as you all know, Sodexo, who does the stadiums, they also do like campus dining and other things. And so when they're standalone entertainment venues, you traditionally would see percentages probably in the 30 to 45%. So for every dollar, the venue, me, the Reynolds Center, whoever, will get probably in that 30 to 45% range. Could be completely different here to you, but that's kind of the typical percentage. Our structure's very different. I won't bore you with the details because it'll confuse you, but it's a unique setup here. But traditionally, you see what you call a commission that the food and beverage provider pays to the venue. So that's a little bit about food and beverage. The other big things that are, that we have a lot of staff to do. I mean, it's not glamorous, but like finance. Finance is important. Even in sports, you gotta understand finance, accounting. I think, I think back to my undergrad, and I was very thankful I got some accounting background. And then in grad school, I was very appreciative of that because a lot of my day-to-day is spent on financial aspects. So it's good advice. Even if you're in sports, you need to understand the basics of a balance sheet and a P&L and an income statement, a cash flow statement. All those things will still be relevant even if you're in a sports organization. We spend a lot of time talking about marketing. So we have a 7-person team that focuses on marketing for both venues. Their job is to promote the brand as well as sell tickets, right? So if you think about 9 Inch Nails, for example, we just announced last week, they go on sale this morning. So our marketing team is the one coordinating with the promoter to place media in the market. They're their strategic advisor, and sometimes we're actually placing the media. More times than not, we work with a promoter they directly place the media, and we advise them on, if you have $15,000, here's how we would spend it. A typical big show for BOK Center is probably spending in the neighborhood of $25,000 to $30,000 to advertise their show. As you can expect, a lot of that is digital these days, right? We still do a fair amount of outdoor advertising in this market, depending on what show it is, and it's pretty, well, you think it's effective, you can't really measure it, but we do a lot online, we do a lot digital, we do outdoor, and we still do traditional radio.
Outdoors, primarily billboards that you see driving around the,
Yeah. So marketing is a big piece, and then events and operations are probably our largest teams. If you think about the BOK Center, we've got the ability to go from a concert one night to a hockey game the next. So in a couple weeks, we've got the Oilers home opener on Friday night, the 24th. The next day, we have Mumford and Sons on Saturday. Then Sunday, we have hockey again. And so we have a team of people that overnight do those conversions and trips. And not only do they have to do that, they have to clean the building, prepare the building, and then we need people that plan every single event, schedule the staff, food and beverage, guest services, ticket takers, security. So
and
lots
those are
of
proportional, but based on estimated attendance figures, correct?
Yeah, so we, on any given night, we've got, for a sold out show, we're probably in the 400 to 450 people range between food and beverage. Security alone could be 150, depending on the size of the show. Travis Scott, I think we had 100 just on the floor because of how it was set up. And so you could touch, each other basically. It was a center stage. He brought his entire setup. It was one of the coolest I've ever seen. And they basically had security line the entire barricade to make sure no one got in on the stage. So yeah, it flexes up and flexes down. For a hockey game, obviously it's a lot less, right? Even if it's a big attendance game, lower security risk. And so when you get into the event management module, I'm sure you'll talk about, how you should look at every event individually and have a customized approach to it, because that's how you will be successful in planning it at the end of the day, in my opinion. So one event's going to take 100 security, one event's going to take 10, and that's okay, and you can still be safe. But as you think about your venue, you've got to establish standards that no matter what, you have a baseline. So on the finance side, we talked about maybe talking about funding a little bit. And so I mentioned earlier that we're stewards of city dollars. And so it's important to know a lot of publicly owned venues, they don't make money. And that's why city entities, public entities, a lot of times own them. For example, for us downtown, our combined operations between the convention center and the arena, we do make money. We make a couple $1 million a year, bottom line. But the convention center loses, and the BOK Center makes up and more for that. So if you looked at the convention center here and many convention centers across the country, most will lose money, but they're funded through a number of different ways. So you pay sales tax, anywhere you go in the city of Tulsa. That helps pay for certain things. Some cities fund their venues off of sales tax. Most use other revenue streams that are more directly associated with tourism. So the most used is hotel tax. And so if you stay in a hotel, you're paying the base rate plus a bunch of city, state, hotel taxes, right? You see those percentages, they're probably like close to 20% sometimes. And that's because it's other people that are coming into your community and staying the night that are helping fund things like the convention center. And so that's where the convention center funding comes from us. So City of Tulsa has the hotel tax, and a portion of that comes to the convention center to help fund that operation. That's the case for a lot of venues. That was the case in Colorado. Hotel tax was a big part of that, but also in Colorado, there was a sales tax that helped fund capital projects. And so every market's pretty different. If you guys are familiar with the Thunder Arena being built in Oklahoma City, that was an individual sales tax that they passed specific to that project. So that arena is gonna cost about $1 billion to build, and 950 million of that are going to come from a sales tax that the voters approved a couple years ago now. So just depends on the market. That will dictate how things are funded. But traditionally, it's either sales tax or hotel tax. Those are the two most common that I've seen in my experience.
How's it funded for, you talk about, so we mentioned capital projects, which is basically new builds,
Yeah.
right? Would you consider improvements as capital projects? So in other words, he's talking about all this money coming in. It's one thing to build it, it's another thing you gotta maintain it, it's another thing that you gotta fix it and repair it and improve it as you go.
Yeah.
So all the gross dollars coming in, there's gonna be a fixed budget on how much that you allocate toward those projects that you need for improvements and things like that. Talk about that a little bit.
Sure. So, and I'll just talk about here in Tulsa because I think it's a good example. So, our combined operation, I said a couple $1 million a year. Let's just say it's roughly $4 million a year. That goes into a capital reserve fund. Additionally, the hotel tax, that generates about $9 million in this market. $3 million of it goes to Tulsa Performing Arts Center. About $4 million goes to Tulsa Regional Tourism. So they're the entity that runs the Sports Commission and Visit Tulsa, Office of Film, Music, Arts and Culture. So that funds them, and then the balance, roughly $2 million, gets earmarked for our venues for capital projects. So roughly, we've got, call it $4 million plus $2 million a year available that we put into a capital reserve fund that we can use for ongoing maintenance. We, as part of our contract, have to submit a 10-year capital improvement plan annually with our operating budget. So we're looking out 10 years and saying, here's what we think we're gonna need, here's the dollars by year, and then we're projecting out if we have enough funding to do that. We're in a unique spot right now where BOK Center opened in 2008. We're almost 20 years old. It's time for a refresh at the venue. So we've been working for over a year now and doing master planning on the next steps. The funding available is far less than what we would ideally do, especially with a $1 billion arena down the street that, as I noted, we compete with every day. So that's a big part of what my job is right now, is trying to uncover funding and trying to make sure we get to do fun stuff like put new seats and scoreboards and refresh our locker rooms, but also like not sexy stuff like roofs and HVAC and stuff like that. It's vital, it's important, but it doesn't help create a lot of dollars directly, and so that balance is tough. Go ahead.
What's the point of keeping the RMS Convention Center if you guys are losing money on it, if the BOK Center?
Ooh, that's a great question. Really, really good question. So, it goes back to my original comments about economic impact. So, those events in the convention center, while the venue loses money, the hotels downtown, the dining, the shopping. So injecting people into the community has more value than that loss, and so that's why the city values it as an asset that they want to fund. So the hotel tax wouldn't be as much if we didn't have, and I think the convention center number, we just got our economic impact numbers like 2 weeks ago, and I think the convention center number for hotel room nights demand based on our events was over 100,000 for the last fiscal year. So if you think about what that does, that's bodies from out of town, regionally, nationally, that come to Tulsa, and then, you know, if you go on a trip and you're staying the night, you're going out to eat, you're spending money while you're there, right? So that's why they value that at a high level. But really, really good question.
Basically, that's the primary question, because
Yeah.
when we've talked about this, like why why cities would want to bid for the Olympics and things like that. And we kind of
Sure.
talked about this, which is like maybe on a P&L basis, on an annual basis, you're losing money, but there's a respend factor. And so I always look at the easiest way I look at it is the arena is the marketing line item, the money you're going to spend as an attraction to get people coming in, because once you get people here that if you didn't have the arena, they wouldn't come. So because they have to come here, like take it to your parents and your daughter plays in volleyball. I know they do a big volleyball tournament at the convention center every year. Well, all those teams coming in from regionally to have to play that volleyball tournament, parents are going to come in there and spend. If the arena wasn't there that you couldn't have the volleyball tournament, they don't come, the hotels suffer, the restaurants don't do as well, that kind of stuff. So it's almost like a budget line item that you're going to spend millions of dollars to have an arena so you can bring people in, and you're going to go ahead and take that loss because the multiplier effect and the in-market spend offsets the loss. Did I say that right?
Yeah, oh yeah, 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 I'll take you on tour with me.
Okay.
So I think we got like 10 minutes. So,
Yes.
I mean, I think I'm pretty much done, but I'd be more than happy to answer any questions that you guys have.
I got more questions, but I want you guys to ask first if you've got some. Just anything. No dumb questions.
Go ahead.
How prominent is like the use of AI within your different teams, not big teams, other teams?
Yeah. it's a
What's the
great-
question, Zach?
How prominent is the use of AI within like the different marketing teams and then your other teams?
Yeah. We are still trying to harness it, is what I would say. I know our marketing team uses it extensively to think about creative ways to support our shows and come up with creative ideas. I know they're using it for that purpose, but I don't think we've like established the core way we can monetize it, if that makes sense. I think we're using it more internally, like, as dumb as it sounds, it's like contracts come back and they have red lines, and it's like, compare these two documents, and like simple stuff like that. But I think AI in our world, if anybody has heard of Intuit Dome where the Clippers play, it's a little bit like AI, but it's more just like the implementation of technology. I went and visited that facility last fall after it opened, and it's incredible. It's like $2 or $3 billion, but they use facial recognition for everything. So literally, I never took my phone out. So you register with an app.
Oh my
You
God.
register your face, and then it's your ticket. They have grab and go markets that it scans your face at the bar, it scans your face for merch. You literally, I didn't have to interact with a single person the entire experience. It's almost like too good.
Should we be scared about this?
Yeah, I know, right? But but every person, so if us four were going to the Clippers game, you have to have the app, I have to have the app. Now, there is an opt-out, you can like go to a different line and all that stuff, but they make it a pain in the neck,
Yeah,
so
right.
they want you to have it. So we all four have the app. So the great thing is the data behind this,
Yes.
right? Because I'm gonna go in and maybe I'm gonna go buy a hat and a beer. You're gonna go in, you're gonna buy a hot dog and go do some marketing activation, which is also facial recognition. And then they have data about what you care about and my data about what I care about. And so I've since then been very closely monitoring how they target me.
Retarget after the fact, yeah.
Yeah, after the fact. What are they pushing me? Like
Yeah.
I bought my son a hat while I was there. So I've gotten merch related stuff.
Yeah.
I bought some beers and I feel like I've gotten some food and beverage related promotional stuff. So I think that's where our industry can go. It's how do we harness technology to improve data so we can be smarter about what we do. And we look at ticket purchaser data a lot, but if I buy the ticket for us four, Ticketmaster only has my info, right? And Ticketmaster is very sophisticated, we can get demographic info, but I don't know who you three are, right? We use a system called Placer AI that uses phone data, primarily social media platforms, that track everything. I mean, you opt in when you're accepting the terms, but Placer AI allows us, for all four of us, we can pinpoint where everybody in the arena, we have percentages of where they went to before and after, how many went home, how many went to a certain restaurant. So we have percentage, like if we have a show and a bunch of people went to McNelly's before, like, we would have a line item with how many people from a percentage basis were at that restaurant before or after. And what that does is, I can go to my partnerships team and be like, hey man, 10% of people try to go to McNelly's after the show. Like, should we do an after party? Should we do a sponsorship with them to help drive even more traffic there, because we know they're going there anyways, right? And so I think it's the data piece and how we harness that. And I think tech in venues, I think what they've done at Intuit Dome is just scraping the surface. I think if we can integrate the entire experience, I think it's good. But what I shared with my team is, like, I think the personal touch at a live event is part of what makes the experience. So the fact that I never had to interact with someone is cool, but I also, like, I think our guest services teams and in the industry as a whole, like, that's an important part of the experience as well. So.
Go watch the movie Minority Report.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Mason, you have a question?
Yeah.
How much of your undergraduate compared to your internships do you use for your job? Like, do you use your, like, schooling a lot, or is it more just like regular?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I did a marketing management undergrad. I minored in sports entertainment management in South Carolina. A lot of my counterparts majored in sports management as an undergrad or grad. I would say when you look across kind of individuals that I work with, colleagues, a lot of them did do sports management. There were a lot of marketing and communications, and then there's business, kind of ranked in that order is what I would say. You know, there's always folks that did something completely different, theater or criminal justice or whatever. And for example, our director of security is criminal justice, which is good. There's it's applicable there. But I would say in my day to day, I mean, I probably use more of my grad, like, educational experience in my day to day, like in a leadership role. But early on, I would say I was using more of, like, my sports and entertainment background, and quite honestly, what I learned from my internships for that first full-time role.
Dovetailing on that question, did you find from your internships that you made a network of connections that seemed to help you?
Yeah, I mean, I can honestly say I wouldn't be standing here without it. The very first internship I had at South Carolina, those relationships is what got me my initial job with my current company. So my job in Austin right out of grad school was not with my organization, but then after 3 years of there and some growth, people that I knew from my internships recruited me to go to this other role. So 100% the networking and relationship building part of internships is critical. And a good example for us is we're literally hiring a marketing manager right now who previously interned at the venue. So we knew of her. She got a job at one of our other venues actually after interning for us because we didn't have an opening. Now she wants to come home, come back home to Tulsa, and she had interned for us, and so we know her, and that's why she's getting the job.
I think you can see there, Mason, that your internships, you're going to learn some technical skills, but it's really about the relationships.
Yeah.
Questions?
Go ahead.
How is, like, your work-life balance? Because obviously you have that, like, day job of the analysis, but also you're attending the events. A lot of the time you said you're attending the events that happen often during the night. So how's that balance? And weekends too.
Yeah, I mean, listen, when you work in sports, you got to be comfortable with nights and weekends. It's just part of it. If you work for a team, they get off easy because they only have to work their games. But we have to work their games and all the other events, right? And so, not really get off easy, but I mean, listen, it's tough, right? Like, my wife's a saint. I got 2 kids. We're busy. It's a juggling act. There's no way around it. But I have to be in the office during the week, especially in my role. But then, to me, the fun part of my job is the events, right? That's what you work for. That's what you put in all the planning for. Seeing other people have a good time, I think, outweighs some of the balance things. Plus, I mean, you know, if you have significant others or kids or whatever, like, they'll probably like coming to events, and so there's benefits too, right? And so I think it's a integration more than a balance would be my thought.
The show business life, it's taxing that way. I mean, you
Oh,
work for a
yeah.
baseball team, which I did, and you're like, whoa. And I can't imagine what he has to do. It's a great question, Zach.
Yeah, yeah, baseball's tough. It's a lot of games. Well, usually a lot of games in a row, right?
Yeah,
So,
homestands. I mean,
Yeah.
14 games in a row sometimes with the drillers, you know,
Yeah.
and you're like, oh my gosh, you're like, what day is it? And, you know. We're about to wrap up. Any other questions? I have just one real quick since it's a sport class, so hang with me 1 minute. It's different because they have minor league tenants that are sports tenants in an arena. What's the relationship there, and how does OVG see? Again, it's not the Thunder, but minor league sports tenants, good, bad, neutral. What's going on there? Real quick.
Real quick, what I would say is you've got to be collaborative partners with your tenants at any level, because their success is your success. If the Oilers hockey team sells out every game, that's good for me, right? I make most of my money when people are in the building because of how these leases are structured. So you got to lean in, you got to be strategic, you got to be partners, you got to help market, you got to do all those things within your control. Pro sports is a completely different animal, of course, with how they interact with the venues, because they drive a lot of decisions. And so minor leagues, it's different, and to me, you got to fully lean in and be committed to being partners with them.
And I'll get into that a little more as we go. So everybody, thank Mr. Taylor with a round of applause for his time. And we will see you guys back here on Friday, okay? Those that are able to come, thank you.
Yeah, of course.